Hello everybody and welcome to a review of the Hungarian Grand Prix for the 2020 F1 season. Yep, 3 races down now. I can't believe it was only a few weeks ago that we were talking about the season starting and we've had a triple header of the new season already. Difficult to say about this one, to be honest. I mean, in some stages it was an okay race. For the most part though, I would say it was a little bit disappointing and probably the most underwhelming of Grand Prix so far. But we're going to go into, obviously, the winners and the losers of the weekend. And obviously now with the first break of the season, so we obviously got a week off. There isn't a race coming this weekend, and then we've got another triple header on the way after that. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into the review of the Hungarian Grand Prix. So yeah, like I said, a little bit underwhelming in terms of the race. Nothing really stood out for me. It wasn't an amazing race. I think it was all sort of over by the start, to be honest. I mean, obviously we had almost had Max Verstappen not even starting the race. He crashed on the sort of formation lap. Absolutely fantastic job. There is a video, I think, to be able to watch the actual repair in full, but the guys at Red Bull, I'll just try and get the figure up now, to fit the front of Max Verstappen's car again. Was absolutely incredible. I'm just trying to think. There 25 seconds to spare is what Christian Horner said, and they did a job that was probably an hour and a half that would normally get done between obviously free practice 3 and qualifying. They managed to do that job in less than 20 minutes, which is an absolute phenomenal job, if I can get that word out. Yeah, I think that's able to watch in full on the F1 website, and I obviously would recommend checking that out, because that'll be an incredible job, and what a tremendous effort by the guys to get him out there racing again, and full credit to them. And obviously I think the second place was really given to them. Well done to the crew at Red Bull. But in terms of the start, I mean, Lewis Hamilton within 2 laps being almost 8 seconds up the road is a little bit depressing, I'm not going to lie. I mean, fair dues to Hamilton, once again, prevailed and did a fantastic job. But as somebody who wants the season, especially with us having a shorter season this year, I want it to be a lot more mixed up. I want the fight to be closer, and as much as I want that, you can't really do anything about the power and the might of Mercedes this year. I mean, they look like they've outclassed Red Bull. They look like they've outclassed Ferrari. The only people that could really fight them is the Racing Point, and they're driving last year's Mercedes, as some people would say. So yeah, I mean, Mercedes are in a world of their own. Lewis Hamilton, like I said, literally controlled the race. Always had a buffer between everybody else. Managed to, with a few laps to go, have enough of an advantage to pit for fresher tyres and still be ahead of Max Verstappen, who didn't make that last stop. So yeah, I mean, you can't say much more about Lewis Hamilton. Obviously congratulations on the win, and thoroughly deserved in terms of how well he performed over the weekend. Loves the Hungarian Grand Prix. Now won 8 races there, matched Michael Schumacher, I believe, in the amount of races at a single Grand Prix. So yeah, absolutely congratulations to him. Like I said, Max Verstappen finishing second. Fantastic job considering he might not have even started the race. I think Lewis Hamilton on the radio at the couple of laps in said, how are we facing Verstappen? I didn't think he was starting the race because of the incident. So again, yeah, credit goes to his mechanics. Did a good enough job to keep that position. Obviously we're just going to go into Bottas as well, but obviously congratulations to Verstappen for getting that second place, and obviously trying to close that gap on the might that is Mercedes. I think Red Bull now jump into I think is it second place now in the Constructors' Championship. They've overtook McLaren. But yeah, congratulations to Max Verstappen. But we move on to Valtteri Bottas. Now obviously I did get my prediction wrong. I got the 2 Mercedes drivers the other way around. I was hoping Bottas would get pole. He didn't. He obviously lost out to Hamilton. Started second on the grid, but had a bit of an issue at the start. Looked to have been a jump start. Valtteri Bottas after the race said that he saw something flash up on his dash, and obviously normally when that happens it means the lights have gone out, and your reaction is to whenever something appears on the dash at the start, you go. Obviously wasn't the case. Jump started by about, I don't know, half a second maybe in terms of guessing, and then started, stopped, and then by the time we got going again, everybody else had obviously bolted at the right time, and found himself almost, I think, sixth on the grid, six, going into the first couple of corners, and I was going back into the old mode of, oh no, this is Bottas with Hamilton in first place and him sitting around in 6th and 7th. This is not going to be well for the championship. Obviously managed to claw some points back and finished in 3rd. A couple of laps more, he may have got Verstappen, but depending on the tyre situation, that I think Verstappen was wise enough to be able to defend in certain areas. So he may not have even got the 2nd place, but getting the 3rd place, managing to claw some points back from what could have been a really bad position at the start of the race. But once again, Hamilton's now taken over the championship, and for me it's a little bit of a worry now that we're only 3 races in, and I'm a little bit worried as to if Bottas can actually catch Lewis. We've still got a few more races to go. It's like I said, it's a shorter season. We've still got a few more races to go, but when you see Lewis Hamilton now take the lead in the championship, it's always going to be a difficult task now for his teammate. If I quickly go into the drivers' actual standings, Lewis Hamilton, like I said, now taking the lead, has 63 points. Valtteri Bottas in 2nd with 58 points, so still pretty close, but obviously Bottas would have liked to have gone into this little break now until we go to Silverstone, still being at the top of the championship. Max Verstappen, with that 2nd place this time round, now sits 3rd in the Drivers' Championship with 33 points. Lando Norris in 4th with 26, and Albon rounds off the top 5 with 22 points. In terms of the actual, see if I can actually get the schedule in terms of the actual finishing order for the weekend. Let me just see. So obviously, like I said, Lewis Hamilton won the race. 8 seconds, 8.5 seconds away from Verstappen in the end, but obviously with that extra pit stop he made, that just shows how far away he was in terms of being in the front. Bottas, like I said, finishing 3rd, he managed to get 15 points. Lewis Hamilton as well got the bonus point for fastest lap, so not even Bottas could get that as well, which is very disappointing. Lance Stroll finishing in 4th place for Racing Point. Really good performance by Lance Stroll, and that's not something I say often on this channel. But managed to do well. Obviously, finishing quite far away from the top 3, but to be in that 4th position, it might have been a bit of a lonely race. Congratulations to Lance Stroll for that 4th place. Alexander Albon finishing in 5th with 10 points for that race, 78 seconds off Lewis Hamilton though, and I think. Obviously Albon was a little bit disappointed. He was on the radio in qualifying, and I don't know, at the minute he just seems like a driver that hasn't got either the confidence in the car, the confidence in the team, or I don't know, but to finish almost 70 seconds away from your teammate was a bit like seeing what Gasly did at Hungary last year. Which obviously isn't promising for Albon. I think with what's gone on this year in terms of outside of F1, I think Albon will stay for the remainder of the year. However, the confidence, he just needs a bit of confidence up, and I don't know what it is. We don't seem to understand it, that we're not in Red Bull, that it just seems to be really, I don't know, I don't want to say coincidental, but the fact that 2 decent drivers in Pierre Gasly and Alexander Albon seem to be struggling partnering Max Verstappen. Now, I don't know if that's anything to do with the pressure of being Verstappen's teammate. I don't think it should be. Whether it's the team expectations of this is where Verstappen is, this is where you need to be, or does Verstappen get the better parts going into each race? I don't know. I mean, like I said, I'm just throwing things out here at the minute, but it just seems to be weird that 2 decent young drivers seem to be struggling in the 2nd Red Bull car against Max Verstappen. And Actually, going into that, the top 5 were the only people that weren't officially lapped. Next place was Sebastian Vettel, and he was lapped, obviously, by Lewis Hamilton. He gets 8 points, so at least both Ferraris finished the race. Charles Leclerc finished outside of the top 10, though. Good defending, actually. Him and Norris had a couple of good battles in a few laps of the race, but sadly wasn't that much of an overtaking fest, but it not normally is in Hungary. Sergio Perez in the second racing point, finishing in 7th place with 6 points. Daniel Ricciardo, I was hoping Renault would be a little bit better in this weekend. Struggled in terms of qualifying though, so like I said, it's not much overtaking in Hungary, so if you do end up having a bit of a bad qualifying, it affects you in the race. So Daniel Ricciardo finishing in 8th with 4 points. Carlos Sainz for McLaren getting a couple of points for McLaren. We knew they weren't going to be as strong around this track, so to get a couple of points away off the board is pretty good. And Haas get their first points of the season. Fair dues to both drivers. Obviously Magnussen's the one that's going to get the plaudits for the points, but Romain Grosjean did a great job of defending his teammate and defending the position, while Kevin Magnussen was able to go up the road and have a good buffer between the next car and himself. So credit for Romain Grosjean as well, a good job. And like I said, Charles Leclerc just finishes outside of the top. If I go to the driver's standing, the constructor's standing, sorry. Mercedes, what are we, 3 races in? Like I said, 121 points already. Crazy. Red Bull Racing, Honda second with 55. Like I said, just overtaken McLaren in this race. McLaren Renault in 41. Racing Point Mercedes with 40, so only a point behind McLaren now. Great points for Lance Stroll in Hungary, like I said. Ferrari still in 5th. With 27 points, Renault in 6th with 12, AlphaTauri Honda in 7th with 7, Alfa Romeo in 8th with 2. Really disappointing weekend for Alfa Romeo. I think they'll be happy to have that week buffer off to sort of sort out what's going on. Haas, like I said, getting the first points now in 9th, and Williams still yet to have a few points. Great qualifying by George Russell, by the way, and Latifi. I think it was it 11th? Or 12th and 15th, I think. Really good qualifying, great laps by both to get them outside of Q1 for the first time since 2018, I think. So great job, but sadly didn't have much luck in the race. I think Latifi had an issue going out of the first pit stops, and was he 2 or 3 laps behind in the end of the race because of that, how that affected him badly. Just going to go through some of the main winners. We know Lewis Hamilton, obviously. They've put Ferrari down as losers. I wouldn't say Ferrari were losers. Obviously they were lapped, which obviously wasn't good if you're a Ferrari driver and fans of Ferrari, to see them being lapped by a Mercedes, and especially a Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton. 100 points off Mercedes now with just 3 races gone. Like I said, Mercedes are just dominating in the first 3 races, but I wouldn't say it was a bad race for Ferrari. I think Vettel did get some points for them. Pierre Gasly, really difficult weekend for Pierre. Wasn't happy in practice, was out of first practice 1 for the most of I think for all of it actually, and then had issues in qualifying. Managed to get it into Q3, which is an amazing job, but I think they knew going into Q3 that the engine or something with the power unit wasn't happy. But it actually turned out in the race that it was actually a gearbox issue, and then the gearbox sort of absolutely exploded, and that turned into issues for the whole power unit as well. So really unlucky for Pierre, and I think he's had a few faults already in the first 3 races, and there's a lot of mechanical stuff that's already gone off, and if they're still only having a certain amount throughout the year, he's going to have a few penalties at the end of this season. So yeah, really unlucky. Winner, like I said, Lance Stroll. Great actually weekend for him. They put Sergio Perez down as a loser, and that's a bit harsh. I think Racing Point actually as a whole had a great weekend. A lot of talks obviously about Sergio Perez in the sense that Vettel might be going to Racing Point / Aston Martin for next year. But in my personal opinion, I think Perez and Vettel would be the smarter choice going into 2021, and maybe having Stroll as the reserve driver. But hey, I don't make the decisions. Lawrence Stroll makes the decisions. Like I said, great from Kevin Magnussen. And we say the winner is Formula One. Look, do you know what? like I said at the beginning of the season, I'm really happy that obviously F1 is back, but I still feel like we've got a long way to go to see racing as amazing as maybe the Austrian Grand Prix was in the first weekend. I think to start the season off with that was incredible, and it was like, wow, that, you know, this is how we want F1 every week. And then obviously we see an okay Styrian Grand Prix, and then we see a Hungarian Grand Prix where Lewis Hamilton, although it only wins by 8 seconds on the actual charts, you know, we all know it was almost 30 seconds down the road, you know, with the pit stop he made in the last few laps. So we've still got a long way to go to make racing exciting in obviously every single race. But yeah, so in terms of this weekend, in terms of the actual race review and the score I'm going to give it, I'm probably only going to give it a 4 to 5 out of 10. I just don't... When you see a race that's sort of over in the first lap or the first few corners, it's hard to watch the remaining 70. And I did, you know, I watched the full race. You know, like I said, I've always been a huge F1 fan, and even though if a race is a bit boring, I will still watch the whole race. You know, anything can happen, but nothing did really in this race. Yeah, a long race really to stick with. And like I said, we've still got a long way to go to really have them enjoyable races every single week. But yeah, that's my Hungarian Grand Prix review. What do you think of the race? Did you actually enjoy the race? You know, how would you rate it in terms of a score out of 10? Let me know in the comment section below. Yeah, I will be doing obviously a review of and a preview of the British Grand Prix. Like I said, there isn't a race this coming weekend, but it will be the next weekend. So I will obviously do a video for that. There may be a couple of other videos in between, any news stories maybe that highlights in the coming week that, you know, we need to discuss. So yeah, thank you very much everyone for watching and for listening, and I will see you all in the next video on the Pole Position YouTube channel. Take care.